Welcome to For Goodness Sake. Our mission is to connect with people who do extraordinary things to enhance the lives of others and provide them the opportunity to share their stories. Today, we're speaking with Caramia Bacchiochi of Hope on a Mission. Welcome, Caramia, and thanks for joining us. So can you tell us a little bit about your background? What inspired you to start Hope on a Mission?
A little bit of my background. I struggled with all the normal struggles as a young lady and a child of divorce. A lot of insecurities, a lot of shame, some guilt, and just really poor ability to adapt to stress. There's a lot of stress, and I didn't handle it well. And in my home, people drink alcohol regularly. When I was old enough to drink, I started drinking. I tried tobacco and I tried marijuana. Prior to that, I didn't really like either of those. And cocaine came into the picture off and on, but alcohol primarily initially. And through trying to avoid feeling bad, I became an alcoholic and an addict. And eventually in my post-high school years, when I hadn't really decided, I knew I didn't want to go to college, but I didn't know what I was going to do. So I tried a trade school, came to Poughkeepsie, New York from Sharon, Connecticut. And I found a trade school, but I also found a really different nightlife. Right? Sharon, Connecticut has like 3,000 people. Well, it had 3,000 people. Poughkeepsie had 10 times that amount. And there was a cool little nightlife, and I found my nightclub niche, and I ended up losing all of my possessions. I lost my housing, I lost my car, and then I gave away my dignity, one bad decision at a time. And I found myself homeless and addicted here in the city of Poughkeepsie in the late 80s, from 86 to 90. I moved around from Poughkeepsie to Jamaica, New York, Far Rockaway, New York, Newburgh, and then I found myself back here where I decided sobriety needed to happen, and that was 1990. So I got clean and sober, and then I, thought I was falling in love. A gentleman was pursuing me and promised me a lot of things, and it was a whole lot better than what I was involved in, so I accepted his offers. And I moved in with him, and we got married, and we bought homes, and we had children, and we played house for a really long time, and I realized that I was terribly unhappy, and I started drinking again. And in the year 2013, I found myself sitting in the very same jail cell I'd left in 1990. And it was not a gentle nudge from the universe to wake up and make a change. And that's where God told me that everything I'd been through was training to become the woman that I needed when I was homeless and addicted in the street, and that who better to do it than someone who had been there and knew the struggle and understood the needs of a woman who was struggling homelessness addiction. And so I committed to I surrendered my life at that time to a higher power whom I choose to call God. And I was in treatment for almost 2 solid years. And then it was time to move. And God said, okay, time to go to the corner. And he picked Main and Clinton Street here in the city of Poughkeepsie because that's where a lot of activity, it's where I had copped drugs many times, it's where I made a lot of bad decisions, and it's where a lot of bad decisions get made on the daily by a lot of people. And so we just went and sat on my daughter and I in a borrowed car. I didn't have my own car, didn't really even have a job yet. I was going to church, and I was volunteering at a soup kitchen, and I was in Bible studies, and I was done with treatment, and I was graduating from Texas Community College with my associates in liberal arts and humanities. And then it was just like that little tap on the shoulder. It was time to go. And so we would go my daughter was only with me every other weekend. My children were still living with their dad at the time while I was healing and recovering. And every Saturday night at 6 o'clock, I would go sit on the corner of Main and Clinton. And sometimes I would have bottles of water and flip-flops, because it was July. Actually, we're July 24th, which is right around the corner. That's our 8-year anniversary. We'll start serving our 9th year out here. We've never missed a Saturday night in those past 8 years. If I've not been there my own personal self, then there has been a team present. That was one of the very most important pieces, is to be reliable and consistent, because there is zero consistency and reliability in survival, in addiction, in homelessness. So being the foundation of communities, being a foundational community service, so that people can rely on it and know that it's there, whether they know what day it is or not. That happens too.
Yeah. Wow, that's quite a story.
Yeah, really, I'm hearing that pain from your heart over all those many years, and how you kind of came out of that. I can imagine succumbing to that. I don't want to say the pressures, but that situation, and just giving up. I mean, I can imagine that happening to a lot of people. And you really, you wouldn't do that. I mean, you could not do that. Had to move yourself forward. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because when you go ahead.
You said you have a daughter. You have other kids too.
Yeah. When I got married, I'm the oldest of four daughters. I'm the oldest of 4 girls in our family, and I was 25 when I got clean and sober the first time. And my two of my sisters, they're 4 and 6 years younger than me, and the other one's 13 years younger than me. And I was like, well, I'm the oldest. I have to hurry up and get married first, and I have to have the first babies. Like, I have to do all the first things, right? So that was my focus and my goal. And like, the man was in the bag, because he showed up and said, I'll be here for you. And I was like, okay, great. This is what we're doing.
Right.
And I basically jumped in this driver's seat of this train, and it was a bullet train, and we were headed straight for what I deemed to be success, as I had been conditioned to believe.
Yeah, you had the drive and the focus. That's fantastic. So can you tell us about the actual mission and vision for Hope on a Mission, and how you work towards achieving that?
Yeah. So our mission statement, our goal is to restore dignity with love and grace to homeless and addicted women. And that's really it. Like, once the spark of remembering that I had value beyond any transaction with my body or anything I could steal, there was it was a little fire that got lit inside of me. And so if I can spark that dignity in another woman and remind her that there's so much more that she was created for, and that she has inside of her, other than the story that she believes or the things that she tells herself about herself, then she has an opportunity to make a change. And that's the only way change happens, is when we choose it. Correct. Nobody can do it.
Absolutely. So can you describe a little bit more in detail what types of things you do to help achieve that mission of restoring their dignity? So
again, the very first thing we do is show up consistently every Saturday at 6 p.m. no matter what. It doesn't matter what the weather is. It doesn't matter what the COVID restrictions are. Like, nothing. We blew through COVID. I didn't care. I'm outside. If you want to arrest me, go ahead. Like, whatever was going to happen was going to happen. I wasn't going to abandon these people who were struggling already And then all these other things were being, you know, forced on us as a society.
Right.
So the very first thing is reliable presence, period. Even if I have no food, no clothing, no water, if I have nothing, if I'm standing on the corner solely just me to say, hey, I didn't forget you, I'm still here, then I've met my goal. So, but we do show up with a hot buffet and a bagged lunch to go and bottled water, clothing and hygiene items and lots of unconditional love. And we do that every Saturday morning. Every Saturday morning from 8:30 to 9:30, we serve a breakfast. Every Saturday evening from 6 to 8, we serve a dinner. And then we have also added Tuesday and Thursday evening for just 1 hour, 6 to 7 p.m. and a different location in the city of Poughkeepsie. And we're serving about 350 meals a week.
Wow, that's really fantastic.
That's a lot of help for a lot of people.
That is
It's a lot of help and
Right.
it's a lot of help from a lot of people because everybody donates, is a volunteer and a donor. People make a meal in their home. They cook their favorite casserole, or if you've been coming long enough to serve on the corner with us, then you know what people like, and you become the specialist at that plate. And so then people come, oh, is Miss So-and-so here with her dish? And, you know, it's family, and it's amazing.
It's really great. Do you think you could share with us maybe a specific example of some success stories, something you've seen or heard, somebody was excited?
Well, yeah, I can. There are a couple. There's one in particular, a gentleman who was living in and out of the street, but in full-blown addiction for well over 30 years. His initials are JY, and he spoke at our gala last year to say what it meant to him to know that every Saturday night we were going to be up at the corner, and that he knew he could come and get a hug. I think his words were, I would be standing in my mess and I would see foot traffic up the block, and I would remember that it was Saturday night and my whole mindset would change, and I would just make a beeline to the corner, and I would get up there and get hugged, and I would have a plate of food, and people loved me, and it was like saving grace. There were angels up there, and I would get clean socks because socks mean the world when you're out there, especially in wet weather or cold weather. Having bad socks is so horrible. It's horrible to have bad socks.
Yeah.
It's just that it's really, you know, like if you can think of the most uncomfortable thing that you've ever had to live through, and then stick your feet in that and then live in that for 3 days, 24/7 without respite.
Yeah,
Then
it really speaks to what, you know, some people tend to take advantage of certain things.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean take for granted?
Take for granted, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because we absolutely. In recovery, one of the things that we say is that's a first world problem. You know, I have luxury problems, like I can't pay my car insurance this week, you know, or this month. You know, luxury problems, so that I don't know which peanut butter I want to buy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. Then my favorite one's not on sale again. You know, but it's a luxury problem. You know what I mean? Because there are such greater problems to really be concerned about. And when you've lived through some very dark times and some great hardships, hopefully, not everyone, but hopefully you come to a place of gratitude and humility so that you can actually be grateful and enjoy the tiny little things that are present always.
Yep, so very true.
Really very true. Yeah. I'm really feeling the love that you have for all these people out on the corner. It's really an awesome
I get to love me.
There you go. And I can imagine all the people who are there, you know, right, expressing their love for you for actually being there in the first place. So,
yeah, I can feel just how you're describing it, how everybody is so excited for Saturday to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's I get to love my former self. I get to love the woman I was through all of these women, because it was, you feel so incredibly unlovable when you're terribly underweight, you're dirty and smelly, you have track marks on your arms, you know that you've done some terrible things in order to get your next fix, whether it was money or drugs. You know, you betray yourself regularly, and it's really, really hard to not beat yourself up for being terrible to yourself, and then to figure out a way to forgive yourself, and then to actually value the lessons and take them forward.
Well, it's really an awesome thing that you're doing. So now you mentioned that there are a lot of volunteers who do stuff. Is there any other organizations that you collaborate with to make this stuff happen?
So there are a few other organizations that join us in our mission. One of them, which I love to death, is Second Chance Foods out of Brewster. They're a food rescue company, agency, organization. They do a lot of, especially this time of year, they'll go out and glean at farms. They collect a lot of, they resource food, leftover food from Trader Joe's and other various places. Like, people call them and say, hey, we know you take food and turn it into meals. We want to bring food to you. So they get raw material and then they create meals, and they've been making the first first Saturday of every month dinner for over 2 years. They've been making our meal. So in the fall, when they get like all the apples, they make the best applesauce, and people clamor for the applesauce. Especially because, you know, when you're not able to care for your health, dental health is like on the back burner, and so chewing things is really, sometimes it's not even a possibility. So applesauce is really amazing when you have terrible teeth, and it tastes good and it feels good, and and sometimes it arrives still warm on a crisp autumn evening. So yeah, that's a lot of fun.
That's amazing. You know, it's amazing that some of the things Dawn and I take for granted, you know, are like a godsend, and which is, you know, for the people out there. I was going to ask
hard-boiled eggs.
Oh, there you go. What?
Hard-boiled eggs. You don't need teeth for hard-boiled eggs.
It's
excellent. It's a complete meal.
Yeah.
Now we talked about, you had a variety of drugs and alcohol and situations that you run into for these people. What are some misconceptions of homelessness and the people that you see that we might not even realize?
A lot of misconceptions is that people want to be where they are.
Oh, interesting.
You know, people choose to be homeless and yes, there are a few people who, because of mental health reasons, choose to be homeless. They choose to use the shelter system. Maybe the idea of being confined to an apartment or being beholden to a landlord. Maybe there were some bad experiences in childhood or adulthood where landlords maybe took advantage of them. There are a few people who have been using the shelter system, and they're very comfortable with it. And they're very competent human beings. There's this one little lady whom I love to death, Miss Betty. And she, I don't ask questions of people. They offer information, because I don't want to be nosy. I'm not here to really go and find out why you're doing this and what's wrong with you and why aren't you getting better or whatever. I meet people where they are, and I lead the organization in the same way. We all meet one another and the people we serve right where they are. It's not none of my business what your struggle is or why you're here. If you want to share it, the door is wide open. I'll step aside off the line and open my heart and my mind and hear you. If you need some kind of help, if I can't help you directly, I'll refer you, or we can go together. But we don't ask the question, you know, what happened to you? What's wrong? It's so invasive. So it's hey, good to see you, and do you want mashed potatoes? You know, that kind of thing. Or do you need socks? One of the common misconceptions for addiction is that people are there's pieces of crap, or they're rotten people, and they have bad agendas and they're dangerous. Now, while some of that is true, that yes, in addiction we make very bad decisions, we do not good things to other human beings, and we harm people. Overall, like 98% of the time, we're just scared children trapped in adult bodies without the coping skills.
Well, it's an interesting way to look at that.
Yeah.
Well, that was my experience. I mean, that's my personal experience.
Sure.
Like, I didn't have the trauma the things that happened in my household and in my childhood that were beyond my control as a child, right? We have zero control. So then I had to find a way to cope with and make things feel better for me, because there was nobody helping me feel better. So when I found drugs and alcohol that made me feel better, then this romantic adventure occurred. It's a lot like the whole white knight in shining armor lie that as women are told, that somebody's going to come and save me. And, drugs and alcohol set up a big story, and they come and they make you feel great. And then at some point, the weight shifts, and now I'm reliant upon it. And now I can't get through my day without having it. And now I'm going to compromise my relationship with my husband, my mother, my children, whomever, because I need more, and what I need to get more you have, and I'm going to take it from you. Not because I want to hurt you, but because it's the easiest way to do it, and then I don't have to steal or sell my body. But you can quickly spiral to those pieces too.
I can see that happening. Sure. What?
Yeah.
So so you said everybody's a volunteer and you're getting all kinds of stuff on volunteer. Is there any money and fundraising and stuff involved also? And how does that come about?
So we have some donors. We always are willing to accept financial support, of course. Our greatest expenses are the paper goods to serve the food in, and supplementing food and clothing when we're not having an event. So a lot of times, say Sherry shows up and she's at the dinner that night, and it's 7:30, we serve till 8 o'clock. She's missed the clothes that fit her. She's been wearing the same clothing for 3 days, and she also got her period, and now she, needs to be cleaned up. We have an opportunity, there's a place for us to take someone to shower. So we would stop at Family Dollar and get her an outfit, or maybe two, depending on what her agenda is. If she's trying to go to rehab, we will get her 3 days of clothing and toiletries, because we want her to go in successfully and not feel less than when she gets there. So you want to go in with your own personal items. A lot of times during the week, again, we have 3 dinner meal services, but there's other times of the day when people are hungry and maybe they didn't make it to the lunchbox. Salvation Army does breakfast Monday through Friday. The lunchbox does lunch and dinner Monday through Friday. But there's windows of opportunity to get those meals. And if you miss that, which is often the case, you can be hungry for days and not know it, and not know what time it is what I mean. And you can miss the lunchbox by 5 minutes, and now you can't eat until tomorrow morning, and it's 6 p.m. on Thursday. And tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. is when Salvation Army is going to do breakfast. Is it my own fault that I wasn't paying attention to the clock and I didn't get? Absolutely. But that's the thing about addiction. It takes over your entire life. And there is nothing else to focus on but avoiding the uncomfortable feeling of not having enough. Right? So there's withdrawal symptoms that can kick in if you're drinking way too much, or if you're using benzodiazepines. There's medical consequences for not having the next one, seizures and death. Heroin overdoses happen often, but if you don't get your fix, you can suffer debilitating diarrhea and vomiting. And then if you're homeless, it's not like you're just having the flu symptoms and you're laying on your couch feeling sick. You're rolling around on the grass or in a parking lot, or you're hiding under a tree somewhere trying to feel better. And the idea of someone rescuing you with a little bit of heroin or some fentanyl or even morphine, a pill, anything, or alcohol, cocaine, to relieve that discomfort, because it is absolute bone to the bone discomfort. It's flu-like symptoms. So that's what keeps a lot of people from actually getting into recovery, is the fear of the withdrawal symptoms and not having enough comfort. So when we take someone to detox, they will, in the ER, they will give them Ativan and an antiemetic or an anti-nausea to help relieve the withdrawal symptoms so that they can have a successful withdrawal. But that's, there's all kinds of controversy. Really, we should just be helping people feel safe and safe enough to make the next right decision for themselves and supporting them in that. But that's really difficult because we shame people and we blame them for their situation. We blame them for being traumatized and coping the only way they know how. And that's pretty rotten.
Right, and a lot of times I can imagine it's a situation they didn't choose to be in, like you said before. So, but it's hard to choose to get out of it.
Yeah.
So, really
if as a child you had an abusive mom or an absent dad and an absent mom had to work 3 jobs. She was a good mom, but she wasn't home. You had an older brother who was abusing you. There's just so many situations. Everyone has a story. The story is, I was mistreated and I didn't have a skill set to take care of myself. I had to rely on my abusers, which sets up a whole other trauma line of attachment. I mean, there's just so many indications that, there is no pat answer. It's meet the person where they are, learn their story, love them despite the story, help them move forward and rewrite their story.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Dawn, you have another looking
Yeah.
ahead?
Yep. So it sounds like you've made quite an amazing amount of impact already, but looking ahead for Hope on a Mission, what do you see for the coming years? How do you expect to hope to expand your reach?
My goal is to be able to train other communities to do the same thing. That's really, if we could take this national or international, there's nowhere that this service isn't needed. It's just scalable. Is it once a week because there's only 10 homeless people in your town? You live in a small town, and do you want to just make tuna sandwiches in your house and drive down the street with 3 bags? Because there are 3 people who need to eat. A lot of people don't know what to do, so they feel helpless. If you're going to dinner and you're not going to finish your meal and you get a doggy bag, drive into the part of town where everybody's sitting and waiting, or the lady who's standing at the end of the parking lot saying, "I'll take anything," and drop off your food.
Yeah, that was actually part of my next question, is how can people contribute or get involved? And certainly, how can they reach out to specifically Hope on a Mission to learn about the involvement?
So we are hopeonamission.org on the web. We're on Facebook and Instagram under Hope on a Mission, or HOAA, the @HOAMPK, or Hope on a Mission Poughkeepsie. Those are the best ways to reach out. Come to an event. We are out every Saturday morning and evening at 480 Main Street, and every Tuesday and Thursday evening at 600 Main Street. You don't need permission. You don't have to have a skill. You don't need to bring raisins. You can just show up and watch what we're doing and then follow your heart. That's how most of the volunteers that have come and hung out with us and continue to come and hang out with us started. It's an open invitation. We're not exclusive. We're totally inclusive, and you can't do it wrong. If you're bringing your heart and you say, I want to help, there's a few guidelines. We've actually created a volunteer handbook to help people better understand how to be present for someone and sort of keep your own agenda out of the way. But other than that, you know, you're standing behind a table, loving the person who's standing in front of you, and you're scooping food into their dish, or you're giving them a baggie with some brownies and a bottle of water, or you're giving them a pair of socks. But eye contact, I'm glad to see you today. Those kinds, that's just, you know, acknowledging their humanity.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you have a handbook. Can people get that through the website? Do they have to come to the event?
We're gonna have it on the website. It's not there yet. We're still finishing it up, but if somebody was interested in it, you know, it's easy enough to send it to them in an email.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so people can go to hopeonmission.org and just contact us, and I'll get an email in my inbox, and I respond to you.
Very good, very good. We'll put some links in the comments and make some of that stuff. Make some of that up. So this is really, so this has been awesome, Caramia. We learned a lot for sure.
Yeah.
And how grateful we feel for you and the mission that you have is so heart-centered and such a needed service for a lot of people that, you know, really a lot of people don't know about, and you know, so we're trying to support you also. So
Yeah, we're trying to get the word out there for you.
For
That's
sure,
great.
for sure. And
Great. Yeah.
so we learned a lot, so that'd be cool. So anyway, so we'll follow up a little bit, and have a great day and stay cool. It's really hot outside.
Thank you so much for having me here and letting me tell my story and tell the story of Hope on a Mission.